Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of What's Your Kryptonite. Today we are joined by Marina LeGree, who's the executive director and the founder of Ascend Athletics. Ascend Athletics believes in empowering girls through mountain climbing. Through mountain climbing, these girls are breaking barriers. They are fostering resilience. They are conquering summits. But along with the physical climb, they're also mentally unleashing a lot of barriers, a lot of walls that they've created. So let's welcome Marina and let's dive into it. Hi, Marina. How are you? So first of all, where are you from? Tell me a little about yourself so that the audience knows a little also. And where did Ascend Athletics, the concept, everything, like how did it come about?
So I'm American. I grew up in a small town in Washington State on the West Coast. I live in Maine now, which is also a very green state, but on the other corner of the country. And Ascend came about for a combination of reasons. The first is that the way I grew up was totally in the outdoors, on a farm, doing sports all the time, from the age of about 5 until all the way up through university. And then I pursued a career, I thought I would pursue a career doing international development work. So I went to Afghanistan for what was meant to be a few months in 2005. Fell in love with the place and the work. It was in Badakhshan province in the northeast. And however, I was like drastically stopped from doing sports and exercise and being outdoors and all of those things that I loved because I was working amongst the people, and that was not done there. Women and girls don't roam around outside, and they certainly don't exercise in public or anything like that. So it was a bit of a shock to the system for me, and a realization also that a path that made me who I am is completely inaccessible to lots of girls, not just in Afghanistan, but lots of girls all over the world. So the idea was born there.
Right. So mountain climbing in Gilgit-Baltistan, how did that transition happen?
Sure. Well, it took a long time. From 2005 was when I first kind of started down this path. And it was May 2023 that we launched Ascend Pakistan in Skardu in Gilgit-Baltistan. And it happened basically when I created the idea and the concept for Ascend. I knew that it would need to start in Afghanistan, where I had the ideas and I had the contacts and I had Afghan girls that wanted to be on the team. But I wanted to prove the concept there and then move elsewhere, because I am sure that this type of access to opportunity is needed in lots of places in the world, in pockets of places where opportunity is lacking everywhere. And it's not just for the developing world, it's in the developed world too. The access to sports and opportunities for girls is very uneven. So.
Okay, so when you hear phrases like women empowerment, particularly on certain social media platforms, it's very prevalently used. In fact, almost thrown about quite rampantly, if I may say so. So why something so unconventional like mountain climbing? Because when you hear the phrase women empowerment, mountain climbing doesn't synonymously go with it.
It doesn't. It doesn't. It comes down to the very core reason that we do this. And it's to build confidence in girls. It's really to unlock the potential that I believe is in every girl. And that comes from confidence. It comes from recognizing the inherent value in the self and being able to let that out. And that doesn't necessarily come from, the word empowerment has been used so much that it's kind of meaningless at this point. Everything is empowerment. But we are a disruptor. We don't believe in empowering girls to just be better in the systems that exist. We believe in helping them shift the system if it's not working for them. And that starts again with confidence. And that's really where we work.
So when I talk about the format of the program, just to let everyone know and even to get a better understanding, there are certain instructors who are leading the girls, if that's how it goes about, who are managing the girls, who are training them as well. And then post-training, you're also inducting them and you're hiring them.
Yep.
So that you obviously don't leave them hanging midway and then they don't know what to do and how to go about things. So are these instructors professional, or are they girls who are from your own, basically from Ascend Athletics? How does that happen?
So it's both, yes. They're from Gilgit-Baltistan, and we have put them through professional training course. It's basically an instructor preparation academy. And we've created that one out of nothing because we wanted local women to have the capabilities that are necessary to sustain and train more and grow the thing. So we rely heavily on Western instructors now because Pakistan doesn't have a certification system that's functional. And we wanted our Ascend instructors to have a globally recognized qualification, basically. So we borrowed from the American Mountain Guides Association through a collaboration with them to certify our girls as rock climbing instructors because we want that quality assurance that they are really good. And when we're out rock climbing and somebody's, dangling off a cliff, like the girls know what they're doing. They've built the anchors correctly, and the people who are belaying know what they're doing, and the scene has been set properly. And once that's accomplished, then we can do all kinds of activities, but that's a fundamental that we won't compromise on. So we spent a lot of time since May 2023 investing in this instructor team.
So there are a lot of women and children also who are from marginalized communities, right? Whom you reach out to, or rather who reach out to you. How's that whole process been? Because particularly when you talk about Pakistan, Gilgit-Baltistan has a very high rate as far as literacy is concerned, but there are certain cultural barriers, right? And again, something like mountain climbing, that's not very conventional. That's not something that comes to the mind synonymously, particularly when you talk about confidence building. So how was the response initially, and how has that journey been?
It is challenging because what we're doing is a little bit radical. Not that radical. We've been helped a lot by some tremendous role models like Naila Kiani, who's our ambassador for Ascend, and there are lots of women climbers who are breaking barriers and really making a name for Pakistan. So it's changing really rapidly in that way. But still, mountaineering is not something that the average family is involved in. So we've had to take it slowly and cautiously, and we work closely with the community so that people know what we're about, and the families also know what their daughters are getting into. And I've drawn on my experience in Afghanistan where it's extremely sensitive, and there are strict limitations on girls, and because I spent a long time there, I know that if you don't talk to the families, if they're not on board, you're dead in the water. So that's where we begin.
So when you're talking about Gilgit-Baltistan again, right? So these are people who live in the mountains, and that's pretty much all they know, or at least something they're very territorial or possessive about. So how is that? Like, you've come from overseas and you're telling them that this is what we're going to do. We're going to climb the very mountains you reside in, because this is so personal to them. And they're probably almost possessive, maybe, right? So how was that? Like, now we're going to park ourselves here and we're going to take your girls and teach them women empowerment and confidence building on the very mountains that you call home.
So all of that is true. But it was made so much easier by, as you're asking me this, I'm picturing the faces of our instructors who, it's like for their whole lives, they've been waiting for us to come.
Really?
Oh yeah, they're amazing. And they pounced on the opportunity, and they're from Gilgit-Baltistan, and they're killing it. They are amazing at what they do, and they are the face of Ascend. I come to Pakistan a few times a year, and I'm mostly fundraising and coordinating support for the program. They're the ones that are out front, and they're doing an amazing job of it. So we also had great support from the government from day one, from the Chief Secretary, and from the highest levels. I think we're in the right place at the right time, where there's a very broad recognition that more opportunities are needed for girls, and that also the mountaineering potential in Pakistan is absolutely tremendous. Right. And girls need to be included in a way that works for girls, not just by tagging along with the boys all the time, but by having their own paths. And we're filling that space.
So tell me a little about the kind of ripple effect it's creating, in the sense that, yes, you've told me you train them and then you induct them for 2 years as well. So what kind of an impact is it creating, say personally, then maybe say immediately in their families, within certain communities that you're again tapping into? Like, take me through that process.
Sure. So again, we have two different levels where the instructors and the instructor training is a very intensive, long-term thing. There are staff for years, so they're really in it. Like they've made a career of this, and it's, yeah. The participants is a different thing, so I'll talk about that one first. A participant comes for an after-school program for about 3 months, and she comes after school. And typically what we see is a 100% across the board reporting that our participants increase their confidence as a result of the program. So families are happy about that. And we hear a lot of comments about how girls are able to be more articulate. They can talk about the future and their goals. They're better at communicating. They make better decisions. The families are really generally pleased and proud of them, because we're again, these girls all go to school, but we're not replicating school. We're focusing on critical thinking, decision making, confidence building, self-awareness, social and emotional intelligence, and all of these areas that really kind of prepare the soil, you know, for a girl to be successful in her next phase in life. So she might enter the program really quiet. She's done well in school. She's been very obedient. She's like done, you know, gotten high marks and all of that, but she doesn't know how to think for herself. She doesn't know how to say what her goals are and how to get to them. And she changes in those ways through the program. And physically as well, we get some girls who are pretty sporty and then some who haven't done anything, and this is the first time. And what we see is this priceless thing that I've seen since the beginning. I've been doing this for 10 years, and we always do rock climbing because rock climbing is a compressed way to gain confidence, to test yourself, to make decisions, to be bold, all those things, all in like a 5-minute period, you know? So we do, the rappelling happens where you've got, you know, a partner belaying you on the ground and you're standing on the top of a crag and you need to go down. And it's a very emotional thing for so many people because you have to trust your belayer. You have to literally like back over a cliff and be okay with that. So people cry, they shake, like it's a very emotional thing. But when they're finished, they feel amazing and they feel like they can do anything. And that's where we grab that and then parlay that into other areas of their lives. And that's what we're after.
You know, that was going to be something I was going to ask you next, that rock climbing, mountain climbing, yes, it's physical exertion, you're pushing yourself physically, but it's a very emotional journey as well. So from each girl, if you look at their journey before and after, like you just spoke about, what are you personally taking from it, in the sense that, yes, you're looking at the before and after, you're looking at where they started, where they've, I won't say ended, where a new chapter starting, let's put it that way, right? But what are you drawing from it? Because this is a tall order. This is not something easy. Like, my next question would be, why not stay in America where you have all these opportunities and so much more, and just, you know, work it out over there and reach out to certain marginalized communities over there? Why go to Afghanistan? Why go to Pakistan, or rather in this case, come to Pakistan? But then what are you drawing from their personal before and after journey?
I think it's a great question. And for me, because I put some roots down in Afghanistan in a funny way in my 20s when I was there, and I really connected with the place and the people. And it was about 5 years living there, so it was a real connection. And it just happens to be the place where gender equality is rock bottom in the world. So I was living in that extreme manifestation of unfairness for girls. And so there is something in me that wants to shift the balance and to be an advocate for girls who don't necessarily know how to advocate for themselves, but also families who want the best for their daughters, but they don't want to put them out in some inappropriate way. They don't want them to be like split from the family or doing something that is dangerous. You know, they need a safe, sensible, responsible way to enable this growth. And they're operating within the constraints of their own society that are pretty significant. So I guess I saw a way that I could kind of thread the needle and be in the middle, be an advocate for girls. If I could gain the trust of the families, then we could go ahead. And the leverage was so great. The change was so massive that we could see. So that becomes addictive, and I don't want to stop. And also, the older I get, the more I see that, you know, gender inequality is something that holds back everybody. It's a human issue. it's everywhere, and I don't want to work on anything else. I think, a lot of the ills of the world start from this out of balance situation between men and women. So I'm staying there. And Ascend's philosophy is, you ask about the US, and actually I do have some fantasies about particular pockets of the US where I would love to work, but we have these kinds of programs. And I have to think about where we can really add value, where there isn't such a thing available, and work there. So again, Gilgit-Baltistan was just sort of screaming for it. And it won't take long before me as the American, I'll be out. It will be all Pakistani because people are already running with it. So it's more about bringing kind of the technical capabilities that aren't here yet, and tying it to a certification process. It's trusted and established, and then let it go.
Earlier you spoke about how mountain climbing is a very emotional process, and it can get overwhelming as well. And I understand that. But if I were to ask you, what was overwhelming, or there must be moments, and I'm sure there were several of them, like probably from Afghanistan, or maybe in Gilgit-Baltistan, or the first step, or even at this point in time where you went like, there's a rush of emotion or a tsunami of emotion, positive and negative both, because when you're emotionally distraught, you go like, oh God, I need to stop. And this is a tall order again, right? It's unconventional, it's difficult. And then you're dealing with, like I said earlier, cultural barriers as well. But then the gratification is equally high. So how was that emotional journey? How do you navigate that?
It's very emotional, but it's a funny combination because when I come here, when I come from the US, I go to Afghanistan and visit our program there, which it's emotional, it's heavy. Things are extremely difficult for girls, and yet our program is thriving, it's a happy place, but you can't ignore, the context. And I hear a lot of difficult things, like the depression is rampant, the girls are really struggling, families are under stress, there's a lot. But then when I come back here, especially when I get to go up to Skardu and spend time and like last year when I came, I went out ice climbing with our team right after being in Afghanistan. And it's just like, it's joy. It's so much fun. And they are, our instructors I'm talking about, they're confident, they're good at what they do, and they take such pride in it. And it's just pure joy. So yeah, it's a very much like the gratification is there when I see girls succeeding. But I also see it's a huge struggle. Gender equality is a pretty big task to take on. And yeah, right now, it's a reminder of how it's a human struggle. There's setbacks everywhere. In my country, there's massive setbacks. I'm waking up to them every day. So the struggle is everywhere.
Why take on such a tall order then?
I think we're put here to do things that matter. I mean, how could I not? And also, I had no idea that I would end up in Afghanistan as, launching my career there. But once you've seen, again, that sort of manifestation of a belief system that says girls are not valuable, you can't unsee that. And you can't leave it alone, And it's not, I don't mean to say it's unique to Afghanistan. It's not. It's everywhere. And yeah, it's... The whole reason, in my view, I was there long enough that the war was really starting to open, and I saw enough of that. See, it's this rampant, out of control, overly masculine solution to problems. That's what war is, and it's a complete waste, And it's that's partly at the root of it. Women are completely removed from the picture. And that doesn't work. It doesn't work for us humans. We need female input, and we need females to have stronger voices.
If I wanted to know what was that one lasting impact that long after, say, you've left Pakistan, the subcontinent, and you're doing something completely different, because life can be long, right? And where you go like, okay, I feel like my work here is done. Now it's a machine that's operating on its own, and like you said earlier, people are already running with it. But what's that one lasting impact that you want that, okay, Ascend this is the reason I started?
My vision is that Ascend stands for quality training and quality instruction, and that we have a center here in Pakistan where everybody that passes through our doors has achieved a high standard of physical and mental and emotional preparation, basically. And it's meant to be a springboard for the rest of their lives. So it needs to be high quality. That's what I want. I want top quality.
You know, you spoke about how there's, and I agree, extreme gender inequality, and how can one not step in and do their part. But tell me this, what was that one moment, that one instance, or multiple of them maybe, where you go like, okay, this is it, this is what I'm doing. And what was the headspace at that time?
Boy, it's hard to distill into one thing. I think it isn't one thing. It was the experience I had my last year in Afghanistan. It was actual war, and being a female, I had been quite happily in the Northeast, like doing my development work, connecting with communities. It wasn't a military sort of setting that we were in. So seeing that shift and seeing how quickly women and girls are completely tossed aside, that was a shock for me. And all of the, there was one instance where a girl was killed. It was a battle between US and Afghan fighters, and a girl was caught in the crossfire and killed. And seeing the family reaction to that was so depressing, because the whole thing was so depressing and awful. But there's a price, a salacia payment, that is paid when there's a civilian casualty, and the price for a girl is about 1/3 that for a boy. And the family's literally given cash and given just a little bit of cash for a girl because she doesn't matter. And that kind of, it's so sick and twisted at so many levels that all of that happened. So I think that for me, I was just like, that was kind of the end. And I walked away from that whole situation, but I wanted to come back because, okay, I can walk away and go home, but there's a whole nation full of girls that would love to be valued, that would love to have the chance to do something. And the part that I play is a really little part for a small bunch of girls, but I didn't care. I thought if it can be as small, I don't care how tiny it is. I want to do something that has integrity and that will matter to the people that are part of it. That was my feeling at the time.
What kind of an equation do you share with these girls? I'm sure they come and tell you all sorts of day-to-day stories, what happens at home, what's happening in their lives, and I'm sure you're going through the years as they're growing up, right? So it's all sorts of emotions.
It is. I actually distance myself a bit from it, because the battles that they need to fight, they need to do on their own terms. Like I want to help them access better communication tools, better understanding, to think clearly, to be assertive and all of that. But for example, in Afghanistan, we had this wonderful woman, Halima, who was their advisor, and all of those kinds of personal things, and it's all family conflict generally that comes up, and I don't want to get into the middle of that. I want them to figure out how to navigate those challenges that, again, are common to adolescent girls and their families all over the world. And you don't really need outsiders meddling there. You need to be able to communicate clearly and solve those problems, and girls need to be able to advocate for themselves. So my job, I feel, is to train the instructors and provide them the tools so that they can be that sort of peer group and encourage other girls. And girls often feel so alone. They feel like they're completely alone with their problems. So part of what ASCEND does is create a space for girls to advocate for each other and to really connect with one another. And
I'm sure in all of this has been a huge learning for you as well. Like when you started as opposed to where you are now and where you're headed as well. I'm sure each girl or each community or each country geographically, community-wise, they teach you a lot as well.
Yes.
Right? So you want to talk a little about that?
Sure. I mean, I learn a tremendous amount wherever I am. And also, it's a funny role that I play. I mean, it's really a privilege to be able to be taken in, and like to earn the trust of the families. That's something I take really seriously. I have kids too, and I think, I would murder somebody that harmed my children, and I think most parents feel the same way. So the fact that they entrust their daughters to me and my organization, that's something, that's a good one. And being in Afghanistan now, talking to the dads, that will rip my heart out a little bit, because there's so many of them, they're stressed out. They want the best for their daughters. They can't send them to school right now. They don't know what is going to become of them. And so they're so happy that they can be in like a safe, productive environment. That's something, learning kind of the challenges that face families. That's been quite moving. And learning, like, the girls come up with so many clever solutions. Here it's also been quite fun because our instructors are in their 20s, you know, they're not kids. They know what they're doing. And again, my inputs are less needed here because they just recognize quickly, okay, this is what we're doing. I love this, I want to learn, and I'm going to rock it. And they're running with it. They don't really need me anymore. And that happened really fast. So it's great.
You know, you're reaching out to girls and mothers as well. Now, particularly in the subcontinent. So, you know, when you hear the word mother, it's synonymous with nurturing, love, caring, putting the children or the family ahead of herself. So when they join a fitness program, because that is also at the forefront, right? When you're mountain climbing, you are becoming fitter, you are becoming stronger. What do you tell them? Because all their lives they've been told a certain narrative, and now they're in that narrative.
Yeah, that is something we address at the beginning, is you cannot take care of others when you haven't taken care of yourself. You have to make that investment in yourself. And women are so often told, I'm a mother too, I'm a working mother, and I have the same tendency to put myself last. And it's no good. We have to learn to invest in our own care. So yeah, that's something we take right up front.
So I want to know, like, the headspace of these girls, and I know I've addressed it in various ways earlier in the conversation. When they actually do conquer a summit, or, you know, that sense of gratification is there, what do they come and say? What's the, like, I'm sure the expressions say it all.
Yes.
Like in this case, the expressions would be worth 1,000 words. But what is that, you know, phrases, statements, like, what do they come and say?
So my favorite one comes from one of our girls in Afghanistan. For the first years in Afghanistan, from 2015 to 2021, we ran trips all the time. We would do backcountry expeditions 3 or 4 times a year, a week at a time. Sometimes we did the highest mountain in Afghanistan. Some big trips. So I got to see that a lot. And my favorite one was this girl, Hanifa, who said, I felt like a caged bird who, for the first time, got to fly. And what else do you need, you know?
Do you feel that there's a certain emotional weight that now you're by default carrying? Or there's a burden in some way? Because, yes, responsibility, but there's a certain burden also, right? Because you're tapping into communities. Marginalized is a small word.
Yeah.
Right? That's a very small word. These are just phrases, but living amongst them, interacting with them daily, seeing how basics can be a huge luxury.
Yeah.
So do you feel like that's a burden?
I do. That it feels heavy sometimes, and I feel the vast difference and distance between where I come from and what I have, and it's been actually a lightening to come to Pakistan, where it's just a whole different deal, and there isn't that heaviness, and it's a huge relief, honestly. Yes, there are problems and challenges, and that's what we hope to, you know, bring opportunity where there is none. But yeah, it's not the same. And there's a feeling, and maybe I'm just an optimist. I am an optimist, but in Pakistan, you can feel this palpable movement towards more opportunity for girls and shifting balance, and that's something that is really it feels hopeful. And yeah, also being here, I get to climb, I get to be outside and do the things that we love to do. So that's been, but yeah, it's been, since 2021 in particular, it's been really tough to kind of it's very real in Afghanistan, and girls are absolutely struggling. And I hear those stories all the time. I'm on the receiving end of a lot of messages and pleas, and yeah, it's heavy.
But you know what you're doing, this has a lot of victories. So there must be a lot of quiet victories also, right? Like what we're talking about, this is tangible, like a Pakistan chapter or Gilgit-Baltistan, you know, from one country to another. What are those quiet victories?
I'll tell you, some of the ones that bring me the most joy are when I see the pictures of, like right now, we're sitting here in Karachi, and our girls were out ice climbing today in GB without any master trainer because they're qualified now. And getting the pictures from them where they're just having a great time. They're doing what they love to do. They're exercising their skills, and that, every time I see that, yeah, I'm happy. And also going to Afghanistan, like I was just there, and we had a graduation ceremony we had our fourth cohort complete their course, and it's a happy time. They're proud. They've learned things. They're doing online education for the most part, and yeah, those are quiet victories too. Every girl that feels that shift from I'm lost, I'm alone, I don't know what to do, to like, I got it, you know? Like I've got tools, I've got friends, I'll reach out for help when I need it, and they're on their way.
What's that one message that you want to give to girls? Because I understand that right now we're sitting here and talking, and the audience probably who will watch this are also, yes, they're from comfortable situations, but everyone goes through their battles. Those silent battles, they can be very different from people, right? You can be living in a mansion, and you can be very unaware of the kind of battles that they're going through. Like, you never know what happens behind closed doors.
You never know.
Right.
And you never know what battles people are fighting, you know? And I think for us as women, it's our job to support each other and lift each other up. We must. And of course, our male allies, friends, husbands, brothers, we need you too. And you know, we're absolutely pro men, by the way. It's a balance, and when things are out of balance, it's not good for anyone. But you asked what I would say to women and girls, and it's reach out to each other. Like there's so much strength in those connections, and a lot of us, myself included, we try to be quiet. We don't want to be projecting anything but success, right? Everybody's projecting success, and people can be absolutely miserable and feel like an utter failure on the inside, and yet posting on LinkedIn like there's some sort of, you know, amazing story. Why do we do that? You know, and those little recognitions that I see you, I'm here to support you, I've been there too. We need more of that.
I think lastly, I just want to know, what's your kryptonite, Marina?
I knew you would ask me that, and it's a tough one to answer because, I mean, I could think of a few things. I think what I've just said is that I'm also programmed for achievement. I want to achieve. I feel like that's when I'm most worthy. So I want to achieve the next thing. So being able to simply rest and feel that inherent value, that inherent worth, that's always a struggle. And so I think that's what I aim for in my girls. I want them to come to that sense, like, I am valuable because I am. That's it, nothing further. And girls are so often on the receiving end of so many pressures to look this way, behave that way, obey your family, perform at this, perform at that. And it's enough to just be, and teaching them to tap into that value. That's what I want for them, for myself, for every female.
Thank you so much. I didn't know what to make of this episode, honestly, when we started and when we connected over coffee, but thank you so much. It's like a little window into your soul and into what Ascend is doing, and so much more power to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pleasure to talk about it.
Thank you so much, guys. This was a very impactful conversation. I truthfully didn't know what to expect when I connected with Marina. and Azra, who's sitting behind the camera. Honestly, but thank you so much. Thank you.